Those pancakes and that sausage are both made possible because of 1 can of chickpeas. Let me show you how. First thing we're going to do is drain our chickpeas, but we want to save that liquid. That's aquafaba. It's going to be pretty important in this recipe, and you'll see why. Now, we're going to use that in a little bit, but first, the chickpeas. Now, this chickpea recipe specifically is going to be like a take on a falafel, so we're going to call it sausage, I think, because everybody says, I have to give it a new name. It's not sausage. So that's sausage. So normally with falafel, you're going to want like dried chickpeas, not canned chickpeas, but one of the big reasons why is because of how wet these are. So what we're going to do is we're going to essentially just dry off our canned chickpeas. Now for this, you don't need a food processor. You can't just use a bowl and kind of like mash everything together, but you're going to get a much better consistency with a food processor. So just dump the chickpeas in the food processor. Then we need about 2 tablespoons of fresh sage, 1 tablespoon of fresh thyme, a teaspoon fennel, a teaspoon crushed red pepper, about a half teaspoon of baking powder. That's going to really give these the texture. Then we're also going to toss in a pinch of nutmeg, salt and pepper, and then some maple syrup. You don't want to skimp on the maple syrup because that's going to really help this brown up in the pan. Then we're just going to pulse it a few times to mix, but we don't want to pulse it completely. Now I'm just going to use a spatula, knock everything down from the side, and then I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and then just kind of pulse this together. What we're looking for once we're pulsing this is kind of like a nice powdery, floury mixture. It's not going to be like pillowy soft, but we don't want to make a paste. If you've made a paste, you've gone too far. So now we're just going to make kind of like lightly packed chickpea meatballs and then kind of just squish them into like a small puck. 1 can of chickpeas should make about 6 of these sausages. Now, once your sausages are made, we're just going to toss them in the freezer. They should probably freeze for about 45 minutes. So now let's move on to the next part of our breakfast, some pancakes. Now, I thought I had some plant-based milk. I didn't. Now, I have a plant-based milk maker. If you don't, you could just use a blender, but the plant-based milk makers work pretty good. Now, I just had some almond slivers. Literally, it's just what I had laying around. So that's, I mean, how easy it is to make plant-based milk. We're going to toss in those almond slivers. It's going to be about a cup of almond slivers with about 3 cups of milk, and just let this thing do its job. Now, for this recipe, we need 1 2/3 cup of milk, so I'm just getting that right now. Now, this recipe is just a slight modification of Kenji Lopez Alt over at Serious Eats. But the first time I saw this technique was over at Emma's Goodies with her fluffy pancakes. And I've made those in the past and I've veganized those in the past and they've worked really great. The only real difference here with this one is the aquafaba usage. So I'm kind of excited to just try this one out. So I'm just whipping together the aquafaba and sugar for 6 minutes. And it's really wild how quickly this comes together. But then you see, I mean, how stiff it actually gets when it's done. It's unbelievable. And I'll be honest, it tastes pretty good. So now we just need to set this aside and get started on our wet and dry mixtures. For the dry mixture, it's just going to be a simple pancake mix, 2 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, half teaspoon of baking soda, and about 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Now this recipe calls for a little bit of lemon and lemon zest. I don't have any of that, so I'm just going to add about a half teaspoon of lactic acid. Now lactic acid is going to give this more of a dairy-like taste anyway, so it's a good thing. Now start the wet mixture off with our milk. Now I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of avocado oil instead of vegetable oil, 2 teaspoons of holy wow vanilla extract. Now I'm using a rice vinegar, and then I'm going to be adding a soy lecithin just to kind of help this emulsify all together, just a little tiny bit of it. Now that's not 100% necessary, but it is going to kind of help these pancakes stay fairly moist. So now we just need to fold the dry into the wet, and we're folding and we're leaving this pretty lumpy at this point. Now once you got your lump gravy going on, we're going to add in just a little bit of our aquafaba mixture. Now this is the part that I learned from Emma, and we're going to fold that first part in. You're kind of almost like priming it to help it stay together and not deflate, and you're folding in slowly. Now once that first part's mixed in, then you can just add the rest in and fold it together, and it's going to kind of stay fluffier longer. So everything's looking great. It's ready to go. So now let's get ready to cook. But first, let me tell you about today's sponsor.
Green Chef is a CCOF certified organic meal kit company with options for every kind of lifestyle, including paleo and keto, vegan, vegetarian, fast and fit, Mediterranean, and gluten-free. And Green Chef makes cooking easy, so you can spend less time stressing and more time enjoying delicious home-cooked meals. Green Chef's expert chefs curate every recipe, so you can enjoy nutritious, restaurant-quality dishes at home without compromising on taste. And their vegan and vegetarian recipes are full of plant-based proteins and wholesome sides. Customize your weekly order to satisfy everyone's cravings by mixing and matching meals from different dietary preferences. And I love these meals! Every time Green Chef nails it! Oh my god, this is so good. This is so good. So gang, use my code Saucestache135 to get $135 off across 5 boxes, plus free shipping on your first box. Head over to greenchef.com for more details. That's code Saucestache135 gets you $135 off across 5 boxes plus free shipping on your first box. Green Chef, thanks for sponsoring today's video and always providing me with these incredibly tasty meals. It is always so good.
Okay, so now back to breakfast. So we just gotta set both of our pans to like a medium-low heat. Now we're gonna let these heat up over the course of just like a few minutes and then toss in some vegan butter. Now toss in the sausage and let it brown. Once that one side's browned, flip it over and you're just gonna brown it on both sides and then continue flipping until you have like a nice deep golden brown. So as far as the pancakes are concerned, these are gonna cook up just like regular pancakes, except they're gonna get really fluffy and they're plant-based. So the edges are gonna bubble up, that way you know it's done. The first one's gonna be 50-50, whether or not it's pretty good. I definitely had some variations throughout my pancakes here. Now I'm just gonna add another knob or two of vegan butter. I'm gonna get a little carried away with the maple syrup, and look at these. I mean, this entire breakfast was based off of a can of chickpeas. I can't wait for this. I cannot wait to see what Monica has to say. Hold on. Cheers. Okay, here we go. Cheers.
Fluffy McFlufferson.
I mean, look at this.
I know.
They really are. They're super duper fluffy.
It's like a cloud. No, these are really good. They taste just like a pancake, very fluffy in the center. You know, the syrup and the vegan butter taste really good on them. They don't fall apart. They just melt in your mouth. Now, what
I
are
was
these?
so stoked for them. Oh, let's try these. Okay.
Oh, they
Sausage falafel.
They smell like sausage and they look like falafel.
Yeah, they do. Give them a... They smell like sausage. Smells like breakfast sausage.
That's interesting. I like that.
It's a falafel sausage.
It goes great with the pancakes.
Yeah. Like, this is like a perfect breakfast.
I love the flavor of these.
Yeah.
They are very smooth texture. They've got a little bit of grit to them.
Yeah.
Which is good. And they really taste like they have that like kind of sausagey, almost like that sage like taste to them. They have a falafel bite.
Yeah, they do kind of a falafel bite. I might have made them denser. I'm not like a falafel, not good at making falafel, but it is kind of like the base of the recipe.
They're not too dense. They're not too dense.
Yeah, and then like with the pancakes, this is an insane breakfast from a can of chickpeas.
That's crazy and awesome.